Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about dice. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
Let's talk about breaking dice. Not literally breaking dice.
This is our Breaking the Dice episode, where we we talk about dice and talk to you about how important dice are to your games. We've included a lot of the stuff that we use right here, but we're going to start out with a little bit of history.
Right. So the first D20 that we know of, the polyhedron, or it was called an ecosahedron, which was a D20 that was found in Greece, Rome, and in Egypt.
Now, the earlier icosahedron dice had faces on them, or specific symbols, and they were used in gaming. Even back then they were used in gaming, but they were also used in divination. The idea that you would ask supernatural elements within your life for advice. Now, of course, keep in mind that in those years, those time periods, the supernatural was considered to be part of the real world that they lived in. The gods were considered to be walking among them,
right,
and interfering directly in their lives. And so they would often use dice, and they would do the roll of the dice to determine, well, which god should I consult to solve the issues that I have in my life.
It's kind of like rolling bones.
Kind of like rolling bones. Kind of like, that sort of divination.
It was a poor man's oracle.
Yeah.
Couldn't go visit the oracle of Delphina, roll the dice.
Yeah. So the thing is the 20-sided dice has been with us for thousands of years. You'll find them in the Greek, Roman, and Egyptian collections in a lot of museums. And so if you think about the 20-sided dice, someone back then had to figure out how to carve 20 sides into this dice. And is that, why didn't it go like the 24-sided or the 16-sided or the 30-sided, but it came out to be in a 20-sided dice. And I think that was probably just the most efficient way of putting, 20 different sorts of variables onto a dice, still being able to roll it, but yet still having it sort of stop and reveal its result.
Now, up until then, dice really weren't used for gaming. They were used for scientific. In fact, the first dice that they used for Dungeons and Dragons, they found in a scientific book or catalog, and that's where they ordered them from.
Those are the 20-sided?
They were the 4, they had the 6, they had the 8, the 10, and the 12 and the 20. You didn't have a percentile at that time. Your percentile was, you used 2 20s at the time.
Okay.
And then, of course, later on you get into the 30-sided die, and then you get into the 100-sided die, and you get all sorts of odd, the 2-sided die, which is basically like a coin.
Right.
Or even a dice that just had 1 through 2 on it.
Well, I mean, it comes to the point where when they had to come up with D&D, I'm sure they had to, create a dice system of variables to use. And of course back then I'm sure they had 6-sided dice because people have been gambling with 6-sided dice for generations, hundreds of years. But this idea that they wanted to run a game off something other than 6-sided dice is pretty unique.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we know your standard 6-sided with the pits in it, which are used for most board games, whether it was Monopoly or Go or anything like that.
Sure.
A little pop-up game. I can't think of the name of that. It had the 2 little encased dice. You push the button, and the pressure would cause the dice to pop, and you would roll your dice. But this is the kind of dice that was in it, the one with the pips.
Right.
Now, later on, when, with gaming dice, they started putting the numbers, 1 through 6 on them instead of the pits, the pips. I actually prefer the pips on my dice over the ones with the numbers on them.
Well, I have one here that has numbers, and it's actually kind of interesting because it has everything that's starting with 1, but the 6 is actually the dragon symbol.
Yes. So they started putting symbols
Yeah.
for the 6, whether it was a sword or an axe or whatever.
Yeah.
All sorts of different symbols.
And there are different kind of dice. There's dice for weather, where you'll have a thunderstorm or something on one side and lightning on the other.
Actually, I have one right here.
There
it's
you
a
go.
typical 6-sided die. You roll it. So if I was to roll this, it's partially sunny today.
There you go.
It's snowing.
Yeah. That kind of thing.
It's still snowing.
So it isn't just numerical
Sunny.
results that would be on dice. It'd be different sorts of results. Now, of course, the ancient dice, whether they were carved from stone or whether they were carved from bone or even wood, we have those yet. But we also now have all sorts of different material that dice can be made from.
Yeah, you've got metal dice, which is actually a lot of what we prefer to use now.
Yeah, these are metal dice, and I just prefer the weight to them, and I like the precision of having the metal dice. So.
Yeah, they tend to be a little bit more precise than what your typical plastic or resin dice are. Now, I remember the old original dice that we had for Dungeons and Dragons. They wore off really quickly on the edges. They were just pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
And then they weren't very precision. And of course, a lot of us started off with just chits because they didn't have dice. They were running out of dice. So we started off with using the chits.
Yeah.
Now, all sorts of dice. I've got dice that date back to when I first started playing in the gym dice.
Yeah, these are gym dice.
Which I think were
they're very precise.
Zapata, I think, was the name of the guy that had these. Game Science.
Game Science.
Game Science dice.
They're very precise, very sharp.
Yeah.
But I want to compare that then to one of the new modern sorts of dice with the round edges.
Yeah.
And this is what you find in your typical gaming store. You've got a lot of these round edge dice, and they're made out of plastic, so they wear, and they've been sanded down or tumbled.
Tumbled down, and they're not very precision.
No, and that's the thing about controversy. Okay. And Delaney and I talk a lot about this, about what is more accurate, what really provides you the random variables. And some dice, it's a common thing among gamers that you're going to have dice that are bad. You'll roll. I've got bags of them. I swear. This is bags of D20s that you roll, and the things will roll 4 3s. You'll roll it 6 times, and you'll roll 4 3s, a 12, a 16, and a 1.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, this dice is not coming with me on the table. There's no way. Because there's just something about some of these dice that when you roll them, they just don't have decent results.
Yeah, kind of a comparison. This is a Game Science dice, which I've had since the early 80s. Now,
it's got very sharp edges.
These didn't come with, they were 1 through 10 twice. So to make your D20, what we did is we took a little drill, made a little divot in one side of each numbers to represent our 10s, 20s.
I wonder why that was like that. Okay. And that's a 20.
That's a 20.
Okay. Well, that's weird. They don't have 20.
No. Goes through 1 through 10.
They don't have 11, 12, 13, 14?
No.
Now, why is that?
That's just the way they were made. So what we did is like I said, we took a little drill or a little sharp thing to drill a little tiny hole in each spot to represent the 10s, 20s, or 11s through 20s.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Now, this is another dice. Now, this is a non-Game Science dice. And you can see it's got really rounded edges compared to
this is some of your
it's not very precise.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you roll it out,
it rolls.
It rolls like a round die.
Instead of kind of bouncing.
Yeah, so here you go. You got an old style D20. Okay. And it rolls out flat, and this guy keeps going because it's essentially rounded.
Yeah.
You can really see how rounded it is. It's amazing how rounded these are, and they've been tumbled and tumbled and tumbled. Right.
Now, if you go to Las Vegas, their 6-sided dice are very, very, very precision. And when they've been used for a little while, they sell them off because they're no longer precise because they're starting to wear.
Yeah.
But even then, they have to be within a certain spec of precision to be valid for gaming. And you'll find that a lot of gaming dice don't follow that.
Yeah, well,
And they won't be precise. You can buy 10 sets of dice of the exact same color, the exact same manufacturer, and they won't be exactly the same.
yeah, that's true.
And there was an age-old way of doing it. One was Game Science did a stacking test, his dice compared to others. And his always stacked, always at the exact same height, no matter what color they were. Whereas other ones would be varied. They might be taller, they might be shorter, a little bit shorter, a lot shorter.
Implying that, layers had been ground off them
Right.
to where they weren't actually precise around each result. Each face result wasn't precise. And so that it would be out of balance, so that you could throw it and there's a chance it would either roll 20 or 1 or something like that,
Right. There was another test that people started doing quite a few years ago, which I found didn't work the best, and that was the salt in the water. You take a cup of water and then you take almost like 3 cups of salt. It was a huge amount of salt. Get it dissolved. Take your dice, put it in it, and spin it. And if it always came to the same numbers, it wasn't precise.
Interesting.
But if it was a random number, then it was a truly precise dice.
Yeah, we talked about this before. We never tried it though.
I actually tried it with some of my old dice.
Did it work?
I found that getting dice to float was the hard part.
Oh.
You had to use an extreme amount of salt to get it to float. I mean, you probably take it to like Salt Lake City and put it in the Great Salt Lake and make it work. But even then, metal dice aren't going to do that.
No.
Metal dice, you could probably take a caliper and start.
That'd be the best way is to take a caliper.
Yeah. So, and then dice aren't just for, like Tom said, you can generate water. These ones here are 12-sided dice, which have hit locations for, for 4-legged creatures and 2-legged creatures.
Yeah, this shows wounds. Like thigh wound, arm wound, hand wound.
Yeah, so that's a 4-legged creature. I just hit the tail.
Here's the head wound.
Hit the tail again. Hit the hind
foot wound.
Hind leg.
Left hand wound.
Hit the wing.
Right hand wound. So yeah, that's pretty. It's random and kind of like, okay, you are hit in the head wound. You're dead.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So you can randomly generate results in that sense.
And these are a 12-sided that I got just for that purpose, to add a little bit of character into the game.
Yeah.
Now you also can get huge monster dice. This is one I picked up this weekend at our local Comic-Con or Fan Expo, and I just thought it was a cool dice with the color and the metal. It's part metal, part resin with the white numbers, and it's heavy.
Very heavy.
Don't piss me off. I'm going to hit you with it. It's a rock. I mean, that thing is heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like ammunition, but it's really interesting how it's streaked, a combination of metal and resin and inserts and enamel in there. And we were looking at it like, how in the world does this thing roll? But it actually rolls pretty good. I mean, you got to be careful because it'll roll off the floor and maybe damage something.
So I just rolled a 19.
Well, pretty good stuff.
I just rolled a 19.
When it comes to rolling, everybody's got their own thing. Some people throw it on the table. Delaney and I like these dice towers. Now, we 3D printed these some years back, and they took a lot to clean up. They didn't come out very well. We cleaned them up a lot.
Well, it's because the printer we were using at the time was warping and not doing the best.
Doing the best.
Our printer now does a lot better job.
Yeah. And so we did a little bit of painting to kind of make it look like rustic stone, like an old tower somewhere. And I found, and it has a little trap door on the top.
Yeah, it's got a little trap door
where you can roll.
Open and close.
Yeah.
And you see the bottom. So when you drop your
dice, it goes like this.
In here, it hits the slope and bounces to the next slope and rolls.
And then bounce to the next one and then comes out. So I'm going to roll. Now these are metal dice. These are silver. I call these my science fiction dice. So I haven't really ever used these before for gaming, but I just brought them out because I thought they might be easy to see, and I think they look really cool.
The other thing too is like this one. Tom said, it's got a trap door, but you can print it where it's just a circle.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like the toilet bowl,
I like the trap door on top because I think it's really kind of cool. It's kind of like a Norman tower. So you drop it into the top, and it comes out, rolls out into the little courtyard here. So I think that you probably get a fairly decent random result from doing that. Okay, the first dice was a 9. This one is a 13. Now we get a 2. You get an 11. We get a 3, a 5. You can see I'm probably not going to use these dice for gaming that much.
14.
14.
A 1.
A 1, yeah.
Cobalt.
We're going to be banishing those dice here. I bought them specifically for like a sci-fi game, science fiction. So I would probably hand roll them for a sci-fi game rather than, and this I really use for our Pathfinder games. So we have all sorts of dice.
We also
have that, yeah.
This is we got with a board game, and I kickstarted. This was one of the little bonuses that I got. And this thing is pretty cool. I take this when I play BattleTech a lot of times. Now you also can get these leather ones or Naugahyde ones that you snap together and roll in, and things kind of bounce in. I find that having a surface that's kind of solid, like wood or plastic or glass, like at a game store. A lot of times you go into the game store and you roll dice, and the dice are rolling great, and you take it home and it won't roll worth beans.
Yeah.
Because of the surface. The surface can matter a whole lot.
Well, sure.
If you're rolling on like a leather or a gaming mat, dice tend to bounce a little bit more.
Yeah.
We also have these cool boxes.
Yeah, so these are from Misty Mountain Games, and we buy a lot of our dice from them too. And they're usually at our fan expo, our local fan expo. And one thing I like about these boxes, they're magnetic, and they lock pretty good. So they lock shut. And they have carving, various things. This shows some wolves howling at the moon in the forest, which I like. I like nature motifs. That's really cool. Delaney's got a raven with some Nordic runes on there.
Yep.
One thing nice about these small ones that have the 7 places is that the big Misty Mountain dragon scale dice fit inside them. See, normally they don't fit inside one like that. So I'm going to get these out of here. There we go. See, they won't fit properly down in there.
Yeah, it doesn't close right.
But they will in here. Now, I just like how these dragon scale dice look. Now, they're not, I don't know how precise they would be, really.
They're just cool looking.
But they're just so cool looking with this kind of scaly.
And the letters popping.
And the letters.
Kind of almost Nordic looking letters.
They've got kind of I think it's supposed to be like Dwarven language. But I really like it. And then you've got, of course, that seals. And so we'll do a little roll test here.
Those don't fit down.
Oh, that's right. They don't fit down the tower.
Yeah. So you have to use the toilet bowl one.
Yeah, so I would have to hand roll these, which is kind of a drawback, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
But it would still be cool.
Now, the cool one about this is the bigger ones from Misty Mountain. When we were at our con, I was looking online. They don't actually have these on their website. Go to their website though. But if you look, okay, there's dice, and I've actually got 3 sets of dice in here, and then you've got a spot if you want to roll your dice.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to take out one of these dice,
I have these too. I have something like that too.
And I'll roll it in there, and there we go.
Not a bad little thing for rolling. I mean, I don't know how much rolling you could actually do in there, just because I don't think there's a lot of room.
No.
But I mean, it's still, you can store an extra set. Like I can put all these sci-fi dice in here in the middle, and they all fit. And there's no problem.
Yeah, you can store 3 sets of dice in there.
Yeah, which is really...
You don't have enough dice when you game.
See, there you go. And so they all fit in there, which is really kind of cool. I have a black set, which I just absolutely fell in love with. Can't get them out.
And when we were there, I actually picked up, there's the new liquid core dice. And liquid core dice are kind of cool. You get some that have like ships in them or whatever. These have eyeballs in them. You won't be able to see them. But I just like the coloration, and I like the eyeball in them. I got a green pair, a blue pair, and one of these actually are blue light. I think it's these ones here. If you shine them under blue light or flashlight, they actually glow a different color. So they're kind of cool.
Man, I'll tell you what, sometimes the only drawback, I got to get like a suction cup or something to get these things out of there, because I can't get my fingers on them.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get old, folks, and you can't get your fingers on stuff. This is a black dice. I really liked the way that these black dice have like these letters on there. It's black with like orange, burnt orange letters. And I just, when I drop them down, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Now these dragon scales that I have actually fit in mine. I think they're a little tight, but...
Natural 20. Pretty good.
Yeah, so these are really cool. dice options. Of course, if you don't have that, you can always repurpose
Oh yeah, dice bags.
dice bags. These are from. This is from a rum.
Yeah, rum. They used to give us those bags.
Yeah.
Or you can just buy like these soft leather bags, or people have like
This is an
old cloth bags.
old cloth, or people put them in boxes, and
Still
or
smells
the
like
boxes
leather.
that they come in.
Yeah, they
You know,
come in
these
these
are
metal
Misty
boxes.
Mountains. These are some ones that I got last year.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. You get a lot of dice options. I think it's fair to say that dice is a really important stuff with gaming. I mean, whenever you go to the gaming conventions, there's always dice vendors there, and you always get to look at their dice. They have pretty stuff. I mean, this year the liquid core stuff with the floating eyeball, because it's one of those slit eyeballs, like a snake would have,
Or
Sauron. Or
Sauron.
Sauron. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And it's nice that Delaney bought it. To me, it's just a kind of a little creepy, to be honest. So I was just like, yeah, it's a little creepy. Delaney can get one of those.
But,
So.
Ooh, that 20.
Nat 20. Yeah, I know.
Ooh, an 18. Ooh, a 19. This is like a die.
Boy, that's good die.
Or at least in that box it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have. There's all these things that, when your dice don't roll good, people will put them in what they call dice jail.
Yeah.
I've heard of people melting dice or taking
Dice
hammers.
jail right here.
Yeah, or taking hammers to them.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I have a specific pair of dice that I love for when I game, when I GM. It's these silver and blue ones right there, because these things roll really
nice.
good.
And I have a pair of one of the first metal dice I've ever gotten that Delaney got me for my birthday. I call them my lucky dice.
Which we just got off Amazon.
Yeah, and which are really, really nice because they have a tendency to roll very well. And I keep them upstairs. I don't bring them down. I keep them in a little bag up there. And it's like I always have a specific number of D6s for creating characters. And I never use these D6s for anything else other than creating characters. And they've been able to roll up great characters, over the years. So although I am not particularly superstitious about most things, I am a little superstitious about dice.
Yeah, and then there's the age-old superstition. It's like you don't let somebody else overroll your dice.
Well,
now you see Tom rolling my dice. I don't mind because,
well,
it's the karma we have together.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't want to lend your dice out to people.
No.
If you do, don't ever expect for it to come back.
It was the funniest thing because Tom had some dice that just would not roll worth beans for him. And one of our players forgot their dice. And Tom's like, well, here's a bag. And the guy opened up the bag and he grabbed some dice. He rolled great all night with those dice.
Yeah. So he got a pair of dice. I didn't want them back. I mean, I'm not going to take them back. Why would I take them back after that? I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm not taking those dice back. They roll good for you. You keep them.
Yeah.
Also, I tend to think of dice as like books. Don't ever lend dice to people and expect to get them back. That's why I've stopped lending books to people, because I used to lend books to people all the time and I never would get them back. So I stopped doing it. So if you want to be generous to people, it's better sometimes just to buy them a set of dice and say, look, here's a set of dice I bought you. Well, why don't you roll with them? They're cheapy plastic, but they should be okay. That sort of thing. Don't ever expect to get them back.
Yeah, I'm very particular about my dice. I will pick them out. If I go to a game store and I roll them, if they don't roll good for me there at the store, I usually don't buy them. And a lot of times if they roll great at the store, I might buy them, and I come home and then they don't work.
And they don't work.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like that
where
they don't work.
Yeah.
So.
And, and I personally would not, if somebody wanted to buy me dice, okay, that's a nice little gift, okay? They're thinking of you as a gamer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of particular. I pick out my dice the way they look, how they feel, how they roll, just the general vibe. That's why, when I saw this dice, and I'm just like, wow, this is pretty. It's not practical, but it's just so cool. And then there was the bouncing dice they had.
Yeah, I don't like the bouncing dice. It's just, it's like gimmick,
Yeah.
Are you really going to use it for a game? Is it just a gimmick? Is it like, hey, everybody, check out this big giant D20 I got? Clunk, 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 clunk.
Yeah, and then you got the big dice that are like this. They had one last year that was like this big, and it was a bunch of dice, and it's like, wow, that's a great place to put out your rejects. Put them in a mold, cover it with resin, and shave it down to dice and have this big, huge dice.
Yeah.
That's your dice jail.
Well, anyway.
So dice. You know, you have kind of a love-hate with them, and God, I don't know how many sets of dice I probably have. I probably have 50 sets of dice.
Yeah, I mean,
between the two of us, you know,
they control your destiny when you game, so you know you can become really superstitious about them eventually.
And then same with your towers.
Yeah.
This tower in particular we liked because it's got a nice big rolling. A lot of the ones that I've seen that you can 3D print have a really small base. The one, in fact, I got for my DM's tower had a real small one, and I found a mod that somebody made.
I like because it rolls way out into the courtyard, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And plus, everybody can see it. So if I take my dice, you know, I'm like, oh, everybody knows I rolled a 1. Yeah. It's not like I roll and I'm like, I rolled a 6 again. Yeah. So, no.
Oh, rolled a 20.
Yeah. So,
I rolled an 18.
Everybody can see what I rolled.
Rolled a 15.
So that's what I kind of like about it.
Rolled a 3. Dice, gotta love them.
Gotta love
anyway, we're gonna we'd like to hear about your dice before we go.
Yeah, what are your opinions on how you feel about using your special dice?
Do you have rituals you do with your dice? Some people will blow on them. Some people do other things with them.
Yeah.
They talk to them. Whatever. What do you do with your dice? How many sets of dice do you have? And are you particular about your dice?
Yep.
Where you get them and what company you buy them from? We'd like to hear from you on that. So anyway, we're going to end this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, spread the word, ring the bell, come out to Discord. Tell us what, if there's an episode you want us to do, or email us.
Yeah.
I don't check the email very often. The Discord I check more often. But come out, talk to us. Let us know. Are there episodes you want us to do? Or are there things that you appreciate about us? And by the way, we just hit 300 subscribers, which we're happy about. So,
that's nice.
Anyway, may all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
With good dice. Thanks, folks.